Okay, okay, I've got a little story to tell. I'm kind of hesitant about this whole thing because it just seems silly. And at the same time, not only does it seem silly, it seems frustrating. And I'm making this video primarily for a few friends of mine and acquaintances who are very skilled in the psychic sciences. And hopefully they can, maybe they'll give me some perspective. Maybe they'll just point their fingers and laugh at me because it's one of those kind of crazy situations. And anyone who's not really into this kind of thing, they'll probably just not get it. Just think I'm being weird, and I am, and it is weird. All right, I'll try to make this short because there's a couple people who I know are busy, and I really want them to view this. I am someone who definitely believes in synchronicity, law of attraction, but not necessarily the New Age version of law of attraction. I've remodeled that. I've been struggling and trying to really get a handle on these things for a number of years. Most of my life, as a matter of fact. And I'm kind of getting fed up. Because, in a nutshell, it seems there's so much evidence that shows these things are real phenomena, yet anytime you try to make productive use of them, you get egg on your face, okay? And, any psychic who tells you they're 100% is lying. I've been told by people in my tarot readings I'm 80% on, but from the inside looking out, 80% on doesn't necessarily mean that that's all comes from psychic phenomena. I mean, if anything, a lot of it, well, it comes from psychic phenomena, but not from supernatural phenomena. And there's a difference between what is psychic and what is supernatural. Okay, but most of the people I want to reach already know that. Here's the story. I was driving this grocery store, thinking about how once upon a time, over a year ago, I had kind of put tarot on the back burner. And I said to myself, I know I'll get back to it. And I know the way that I'll know when to get back to it is I'll see a sign. And this is problematic for me now. Because at the time, the thinking was, I'll recognize a sign because if you're in tune enough, the intelligence behind the universe will present you with a sign, and you will recognize it. And what ended up happening was, I was at the Goodwill store, and, well, for $1, this Aquarian Tarot deck was there. And I thought, wow, I mean, I probably wouldn't select this for myself, but this is the sign, deck for $1. It's in practically like new condition. And so that kind of got me back into doing tarot at that time. So I'm driving down the road a couple days ago. Yesterday, as a matter of fact, thinking about this. In fact, going to that same grocery store that's beside the Goodwill store. And I said, well, how do I know I just didn't invent that in my head? I know New Agers that everything is a sign for them. So maybe, and by the way, anyone who knows me knows that I'm very critical of people's beliefs, particularly when it comes to psychic sciences. And I've actually been thrown off of Michelle Knight's Psychic Nights site for asking the wrong kinds of questions. Because, it's more profitable if you just let people believe anything, whether there's anything to support it or not. So, if you think I'm hard on other people's beliefs and verifying and testing, you have no idea how hard I am on my own. Because I'm even more difficult on my own beliefs. So I'm thinking, I just could have invented this. I would have, if I hadn't come across that tarot deck that day, would I have come across a book? Would I have just found some other thing? Would a bird have looked at me funny? I could, you could invent reasons to say this is a sign. And I thought, well, how would you know what a sign really is if they really wanted to test this? What's interesting about synchronicity is there's a commonality, an undeniable commonality that makes a coincidence. It's one thing if you're thinking of a song, you turn the radio on, and it's a song that you like and it's kind of popular and it happens to be on. That's a coincidence. If you're thinking of a song you haven't thought of for 5 years or 10 years, and you haven't heard for 5 years or 10 years, and it hasn't been played on the radio, and you turn the radio on and hear it, that is a genuine synchronicity. Because the chances of that are just so astronomical. So, how could you say something is a sign? And in my book, what ought to exist is a precondition. In other words, if finding that tarot deck at the Goodwill store was a sign, then at some point I should have said, when I'm ready to get back into tarot, I will find a tarot deck in a store, maybe even at the Goodwill store, maybe that specific. Well, you could even say, well, eventually that would happen. So I thought, well, maybe what would really be a good way to do it is to say, a precondition like it'll be on a Monday. Well, now you've really narrowed the scope. And by narrowing the scope, you have specificity. So, as I'm thinking this, and I'm just about pulling into the Plaza parking lot, I thought, well, what the hell? I'm really tired of dealing with this, these bullshit concepts that only seem to work enough to show they exist, but never enough to be reliable. I'm going to make a precondition right now. I'm going to walk into a Goodwill store, and this just messes my head up so much, because I go there practically once a week, sometimes 2 or 3 times a week. I've been there, in the last couple of years, probably, well over 100 times. And in all that time, I've only found 1 tarot deck. So the precondition is, I'm going to walk into there, because I was just thinking about this on the drive there, and there will be a tarot deck. And if that's true, then recent synchronicities and this pull toward tarot, and I don't want to go into detail because I want to try and keep this short, I will believe there is a consciousness or a mind behind, a universal mind of some sort that does give us clues. But I was smug because I knew the chances were against it. Having been there over 100 times and only finding 1 tarot deck, and all that time at that particular Goodwill store, I was going in there basically to relieve myself of the responsibility of ever having to deal with this again. So it was like, I got it. Chances are 99% in my favor. I'll go in there, I'll look on every shelf. I do that so many times and never see a tarot deck. Only 1 time in the past have I. And that will absolve me from ever having to deal with the silly bullshit of superstitious thought and creating these connections in my mind and thinking they're real. I'm not a statistician, and this isn't real science, but I thought it was a very good experiment, and I was confident that I'd be able to go in there and walk out not having found what I was looking for, and breathe a deep sigh of relief, because I could just move on to other things, and this thing I've been struggling with understanding all my life, I'd just be done with. I walk in, I'm not there for more than 30 seconds before I see this. And I think, fuck! Come on, fuck me! Seriously? I mean, I've been there 100 times and have never seen a tarot deck, other than once. I make this precondition. I'm trying to find an escape route to having to deal with this shit. And this is sitting there on a shelf, and I find it 30 seconds after I walk in. It gets worse. It does. Okay, so, you know, I bet against the cosmic mind at odds 99% in my favor, and I lose. And this is about trying to deny synchronicity and these connections and trying to show that they're just an invention in my head. Okay? I mean, you know, a nice book came with it. It's like New Condition. The cards aren't even out. I don't know if you can see this on here. They're not even out of the cellophane. Okay? Look at this. I'll just hold this by one corner, and you can see they're not falling apart because they're all still in the cellophane. It gets worse. This Grail deck, I've been wanting something like this ever since I started tarot, because a lot of people, you know, especially Christians, they get freaked out. And I thought, wouldn't it be nice if there was something with a more Christian theme that I could use? Oh, and it gets worse. My first deck was a Caselli deck. I chose it because the artwork was beautiful. It was unimposing, it was pastoral, and it just fell off the shelf. And a lot of you people, if you've ever looked for a deck, you know that a deck will find you. That's how you find it. You don't find a deck, it finds you. And this like just fell off the shelf. I did a little research on this Grail Tarot deck. Caselli was involved in the production of it. So not only did I set this precondition up for the purposes of denying myself any more involvement, the 1 in 100 chance of a deck being there occurs, and it's a deck that I would have wanted and won by the same, that involved the same artist as the one I learned with, that I initially fell in love with. Now we are deep into the Twilight Zone, okay? And you know, it's like I look at I've been kicking myself because I'm thinking, what, I'm just freaking out now all of a sudden because I found a deck in a Goodwill store? At that level, it sounds really silly. But when you take the precondition, you take the, and I hate this in other people, but I have it so much in myself, a certain smugness and a certain certitude. Odds were 99% in my favor. So it's obvious, and like I say, there's been other things drawing me back to tarot lately, and I've been questioning whether I wanted to, you know, how much energy I want to put into it. I won't go into detail about that. I will say this much though: there's a next level for me. I mean, I'm an adequate reader. People have told me I'm really good. I've had people who are really, you know, professional readers say I've learned more than they'd ever seen. I learned more faster than anyone they have ever seen. At the same time, I got to be honest. I'm an adequate reader. Maybe even go so far as to say mediocre. And you know, you might even say, well, why not just say to hell with it? Do what you want, and if you're not real thrilled about going this direction, then don't. Well, the last time I ever saw somebody get this level of encouragement to go a certain direction, and they didn't, they ended up in the belly of a giant fish. And I like fish, but I don't want to end up in the belly of one. So this is just really freaking me out because, you know, I had sort of a 2-year dark night of the soul, and I'm working now, and I'm wanting to get my life back to some normalcy, and I really didn't know how, you know, how much this should be left behind. I don't know. This is, well, I just wanted to share this, and like I say, if somebody else told me the story had happened to them, I would just point my finger and laugh at a number of levels for a number of reasons. So if I've asked you to view this, and that's your response, by all means, great. If I'm being trivial, by all means, explain why this is trivial, because I feel that that may be the case. If there's something wrong with my logical process in setting up a precondition, I think it's a good idea myself. The fact that it was so, you know, like I say, I didn't quote stack the deck, but I did choose a scenario where I was pretty much, I thought I was pretty much guaranteed 99% odds in my favor. I don't know. This is just crazy. So I guess I got to start making some time to go to that next level of tarot. So please, like I say, there's going to be some people I'm going to specifically ask to watch this. And if you're too busy to, I understand, but I would really like some feedback on this. Am I just kidding myself? I would love for somebody to just show me some big mistake I've made in this, and how this is not at all a supernatural or psychic or precognitive event. Okay? Or something weird's going on here. Thanks for listening. I'd really like some opinions on this.